Hello class, today we are looking at factoring using the GCF. So the essential question is, how do I factor using the GCF? You might also see it as the GCD, greatest common divisor, greatest common factor, or greatest common divisor. Learning intention, I am learning to factor polynomials. So this is the beginning of a lot of different ways to factor and a lot of different things we can do with factoring polynomials. So that you've got two warm-up questions. Please pause the video and see if you can do the questions on your own. If you can do them, then you know you're understanding concepts. So please pause the video, draw the box, and multiply. Well, I hope you tried. So even though the trinomial is second, I'm still going to have that trinomial across the top. So 3x squared plus 10x plus 7, and then x minus 4 down the side. Were you able to set it up? If you were, good for you. Okay, 3x squared times x. 3x to the third, because I've got 2 here and 1 more that gives me 3. 10x times x. 10x squared. 7 times x. 7x. I'm done with that first row. Now I multiply everything by negative 4. 3x squared times negative 4 is negative 12x squared. 10x times negative 4, negative 40x. 7 times negative 4 is negative 28. I've got the two diagonals I have to worry about. The 3x to the third comes out. 10x squared plus negative 12x squared. Well, find their difference. 12 minus 10 is 2. Keep the sign of the bigger, so it's a negative 2x squared. 7x plus negative 40x. Subtract them. 40 minus 7 is 33. Keep the sign of the larger, so it's negative 33x minus 28. The answer is 3x to the third minus 2x squared minus 33x minus 28. Okay, now I've told you before, my method to do this is the smiley face method. So I am going to solve that way. 2x, this is your first, times x is 2x squared. 2x times 3 is 6x. Negative 9 times x is negative 9x. Negative 9 times positive 3 is negative 27. I didn't do this one very good, did I? Maybe I should take a little bit off the top over here so it looks more symmetric. He looks kind of bad, doesn't he? So let's flatten it out. That looks better. I have to simplify underneath the nose here. So this is 2x squared. Negative 9 plus 6 is negative 3x. Then minus 27. Okay, any questions over the warm-up? Hopefully they're getting down to where they're easier to do. You can always use the box method, and getting used to the box method is a good thing because we will use the box method again when we decide to factor. We'll do the box method in reverse. Okay, so factoring using the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor is the number or the factor that divides evenly. That should have been is the greatest number, the largest number. That divides evenly into the numbers, and the variable with the smallest exponent. What is the GCF or the GCD of the following terms? 18 and 42. Well, 2 will go into both of them. Will 3 go into both of them? Yes. 18 is divisible by 3, 4 plus 2 is 6, and that's divisible by 3. Okay, we know that 5 won't. What about 6? 18 is divisible by 6, 42 is divisible by 6. So the GCF will be 6. We know that 18 does not divide evenly into 42. 9 is a factor of 18, but it does not divide evenly into 42, so our GCF is 6. What about 11 and 24? The factors of 11 are 1 and 11. Does 11 divide evenly into 24? No, which means the GCF is going to simply be 1. That's the only common factor they have. Okay, so I'm looking at 4 and 6 as my numbers. Okay, what will divide evenly into 4 and 6? Well, they're both even, so I can factor out a 2. What about x to the 4th and x to the 3rd? Which is your smaller exponent? 3. So that's x to the 3rd. This will be 2x to the 3rd. Okay, we're looking at our two numbers. What's the GCF of 15 and of 45? The first thing you always ask yourself, will 15 divide evenly into 45? Yes, it will. So the largest number is going to be 15. We've got x, and we've got x to the 3rd. What is the smallest exponent? Well, x to the 1st power. We've got y to the 3rd, and we've got y squared. What is our smallest exponent? 2. We have z to the 7th. And we have z to the 1st. What's the smallest? Well, z to the 1st. We won't put the 1 down because it's understood to be there when it's not. So, guess what? Your calculator will do that for you. This is why I brought to your attention that GCF is also the GCD. So, with your calculator, Here's my calculator. See the math button? I'm going to hit math. Now I'm going to scroll over to num. So using my arrow key right here, I scroll over. See how it's highlighted? Now I can scroll down. I do not see it to number 7, so that tells me it's going to be past 7. There's my least common multiple and my greatest common divisor, so I'll hit enter. Now I want to put the numbers in because I've got parentheses, so I'll start with 25, use the comma, right above the 7 is a comma, 10. Close it off, hit enter, and it is 5. Okay, x and x squared. What's your greatest common factor? Well, that will be x. So 5x is the greatest common factor of 25x minus 10x squared. Okay, now what happens if you've got 3 numbers? Can you put it in the calculator? No. But you are going to start with the smallest number and see if it will divide evenly into all of them. So this time I'm looking for the GCF of 8, 16, and negative 24. Will 8 divide evenly into 16? Well, yeah, 2 times 8 is 16. Well, what about 24? Yep. 3 times 8 is 24, only in this case it'd be negative 3. So 8 is the largest number I can divide out of the numbers. Let's look at our exponents. We'll start off with x. X squared again, and x to the third. What would be our greatest common factor? Well, that would be x squared. I've got y. I've got y to the third. I've got y squared. And I've got y to the fourth. What is my smallest exponent? To the second, so this is y squared. Now for z, z to the fifth, z to the second, and z to the fifth again. What is my smallest exponent? Well, to the second power. So out of each one of those terms, I can factor out 8, x squared, y squared, z squared. So what are your steps to factoring? You start by looking at the numbers. Find the greatest common factor of all of them. You might also see it, the GCD, the greatest common divisor. Then look at the variables. The variable with the smallest exponent. is your GCD. So how do you know when you're successful? When we get to the end of this, the factoring polynomials unit, and you can do it all, then you'll know you're successful. So this is factoring, and this is with the GCD, or GCF, whichever one you want to use.